Because we didn't do that.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome you all here to the regular scheduled city council meeting for the Spring Hill City. And this is January 12th, 2023 already. If you guys would stand with me, we don't have anyone to do the invocation, but I'll go ahead and do the honors. Father God, thank you for bringing us here once again today, God, to help try to make the best decisions for our citizens, God, and for our community, God. Give us wisdom and grace as we do that and as we deal with each other. In Jesus' name. Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Mrs. Roth?
Here.
Mr. Peel?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mrs. North?
Here.
Mr. Van Houten? Mayor, we do have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any requested changes or additions? I do believe there was one requested to add another executive session for 5 minutes. So we just have one on the list there. So can add executive session number 2. And once again, we just need 5 minutes on that one. Other than that, any other requested changes? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented, or as amended, I should say.
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
The consent agenda. The regular agenda. It's just a regular agenda.
I'm sorry, of the agenda. Would you like me to start over?
Did we get a second?
Yeah. Well, I'll say second again.
All right, got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to a discussion item of enterprise fleet management, and Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for your time tonight. Always good to see all of you. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the vehicles in our fleet. And more specifically, we're going to talk about the light and medium duty vehicles. We're not going to talk about heavy equipment like dump trucks or bobcats and skid steers and things like that. We're going to talk about the vehicles you see regularly around the city. We are entertaining and bringing up this subject. We'd like to entertain utilizing enterprise fleet management to do exactly that, to manage our fleet. There's many things that go into that, why I think this is a great opportunity for the city. And in a few minutes, I'm going to call up Ken Olson, who is the account manager for enterprise fleet management, and I'll let the expert do the talking in more detail with you. But why do we need enterprise fleet management? And there are just a few points here. In our fleet, we have 27 light and medium duty vehicles. And I'm going to show you pictures shortly of what our current fleet looks like. Some of them you may see all the time and some of them you may never see. So vehicle replacement is a low priority. When it comes to budgeting, those seems to always be on the want list, not the need list. And so it doesn't get a lot of funding. We're slow to replace. I think we average about 2 cars or 2 vehicles a year. And so it has not been a priority to the city. Purchasing for us is reactive, not proactive. We're not managing our fleet. When something goes wrong, we replace it. When something goes wrong, we repair it. We are not actively managing our fleet forward. Our staff spends time on the vehicles, obviously maintenance and care of them and things. But just remember recently we purchased 2 dump trucks and 2 police cars. And staff spent a great deal of time searching out and finding those vehicles. We had to react because they were available. We did not make a long-range plan. Now we have surplus vehicles to deal with and things like that. So we're spending staff time, and we're certainly not the experts at acquiring vehicles that enterprise would be. There is the city buys at government pricing, as you know, makes perfect sense. And this is an opportunity for us to capture the market value between what we pay at government pricing and use that car for a while, and then we sell it for a market rate. The markets are so strong right now, we should be taking advantage of that upside, and we don't really have a great mechanism to do that. We would take the task of fleet management, acquiring cars, selling them and buying them. We would turn that over to experts, not try to do it with the staff that we have, as best as we can do it. The result for us will be a lower cost for our fleet, both in maintenance because we'll be turning them over faster, we'll be using better gas mileage vehicles, we'll be using better maintenance vehicles because they won't be as old and as costly to us. They'll be safer vehicles. We will have things with the latest safety equipment and safety features as opposed to some of our older vehicles certainly don't have those features today. And then we will also be making planned purchases and planned sales as opposed to reactive. But in the end, the city still controls the process. If we have a vehicle, it's high mileage and old because we don't use it very much, we're not gonna lease a new one in that one's place. That doesn't make any sense. The police department is particular, as they should be, on what their patrol cars are. Those cars are gonna be black. That's the color that we choose. We're not forcing any department into something that doesn't fit with their plan or their program. We will be in control of those decisions. At the same time, we'll be capturing market value, so we'll wanna balance wants with opportunities in that case. I put together a quick little grid here so you can get an idea of the age and the mileage of our existing fleet. In community development, and I don't have to read to you, but in community development, the average age of the vehicle there is 12 years. And they average 68,000 miles. When Ken comes up, he's gonna give you a lot more details about the condition of the fleet. Public Works, 16 years, 128,000 miles. Streets and Parks, 10, 85,000. Clearly, with the PD, that is something we are managing better to get the patrol cars replaced more often. We just bought 2 more because those cars, I believe, work 24/7 and get a lot of miles and a lot of time, so we have to keep those cars in great shape. We have here in this list, missed opportunity. We keep our vehicles until their value is down very low. Sometimes we even give them away. And this program would allow us to take advantage of the equity that we build in our vehicles and put it to work as cash in our operation instead of out the window over time. So I'm gonna run through some pictures very quickly here so you can get a look. You'll find one thing, we're consistent. I think there's one car in the non-PD fleet that isn't white. We are definitely consistent. I put the mileage on each one and then the age, make, and model. So if we'll just kind of flip through these. 2016 Ford, these are all in community development. I was glad to see that we don't send a codes officer to a house in a vehicle that looks like it needs a codes violation ticket. They have pretty good equipment, some better than others, some older than others. Let's go on to next. In Public Works Administration, they have 2 vehicles. I believe one of these, and anyone's welcome to speak up, I think the one that Jackie's supposed to be driving, he rarely drives because it's in the shop. Quite a bit, and he uses his personal vehicle instead. Opportunity there. Then these are the Streets and Parks vehicles. Kind of a wide variety of what we have here in this fleet. And then water and wastewater, the same thing. This is their newest vehicles of 2014, 7 going on 8 years old. And then we have some 2003s. I think this one is headed, the 2011 Jeep Liberty has a mechanical problem and I think it's on the road to being sold. And then the next slide shows you the ones that are currently on Purple Wave. Clearly we have used these for their life and we will probably be getting kind of a minimal value for them. PD, a little bit different story. I didn't have them take a picture of every single one because they're very consistent. We buy in the Ford line. They are the preferred vehicles for our police department. And then we have 2 staff vehicles that are an average age of 5 years. So I'm always happy to answer questions, but before we move to questions, I'm going to bring Ken Olson up from Enterprise Fleet. He's going to go over the synopsis, which was a part of your packet that went out, and talk more in detail about that. And then this is meant to be a discussion. So of course, any questions that you have or any questions that the staff has, we'd love to talk about the program. I think it's a great opportunity.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Before I get started, also wanted to thank Rhonda, Lane, Chief, and Jackie for all the time and efforts they put into this. Clearly from Rhonda's explanation here, she knows a lot about the program, so I do really appreciate all their time and efforts that went into this. Before we get into the synopsis and get into the analysis component, I did want to run through a quick overview of just who we are and kind of what we do at a very high level. Briefly discuss the vehicle and operational sides of our program, and then lastly get in that synopsis and some of the analysis components. So from a very high level standpoint, we are the same company as Enterprise Holdings. You're probably familiar with Enterprise Rental Car. On the fleet management side, what we do is we really just leverage that infrastructure, the tools, the resources, the people, and everything that we own and operate. We've got a couple million vehicles out there at any given time. And we leverage that to help entities like yours with really small to medium sized fleets save money and operate more efficiently. Our niche is 20 to 300 vehicles. Average client has about 40 to 50 vehicles in the fleet. As you can imagine, most of the entities here in Kansas fall into that category, especially if we break it down from a department standpoint. To give you a little clarity on the personnel, my role is getting the partnerships established. So working with the team, figuring out what you do from both a financial and an operational perspective, designing and customizing the strategy, financial structures, working with the attorney from a contract standpoint, and getting the partnership off the ground. As soon as the partnership would go live, we do have local account representatives that will come out and meet with you, typically about 4 times per year, meet with the team. We're looking back from a budget standpoint at the last 12 months. And these days, given the state of the industry, we're really forecasting out the next 12 to 24 months. As Rhonda mentioned, acquiring the vehicles on its own is a very challenging task these days. There's allocation structures that are coming into play and just a lot of different challenges, as you probably have heard, just with the industry in general. So key piece there, we're here for a partnership, a relationship. We're right down the road in Merriam, Kansas, and we will be here in person working with the team. From a flexibility standpoint, a couple different entities that we partner with currently. City of Emporia, we partner with them. Unified Government, City of Lenexa, Spring Hill School District. And with some of these entities, they only use us for what I consider the vehicle side. So acquisition, upfitting, funding, and resale. Few other entities, partner City of Derby, Valley Center, Wellington, Arc City. Some of these entities use us for that vehicle side, but they also use us for our maintenance programs, our telematics, our fuel programs. Some even use our insurance, right? So the reason I share this is there's a lot of flexibility with our program, and through our Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative Award that we have, you are able to piggyback off each of the different components of our program, and it can certainly grow as your city grows over the years into the future. From a strategy standpoint, we've designed the analysis that we'll get to here in a moment as a starting point. But some of our entities are getting very aggressive and flipping out their entire fleet within a year or two. City of Derby did this just recently, whereas the City of Prairie Village, we streamlined over a 3 or 4 year plan to implement the vehicles over the years, right? So again, just a ton of flexibility. We're going to customize this around the state of the industry, around your entity, around your budget, but a lot of flexibility there. Lastly, I do like to explain the budget impact. You all, from a government perspective, buy these vehicles better than anyone, as Rhonda mentioned. Enterprise sells around 1.3 million vehicles every year, so we sell these used vehicles better than anyone. And we put those two components together, and through leveraging our equity lease model that is built into this analysis, we're able to acquire them really very well, sell them, and then just pay for the portion that you're going to use. So for Jackie's truck, for example, that F-150 or F-250, the Unified Government Streets trucks, we do all their vehicles very similar to that. Back in 2020, we bought their vehicles for $32,000. We funded them to about $25,000, sold the vehicles on their behalf for just under $45,000 and return that equity back to them. So from a budget standpoint, in that case, they had a very light budget and reduced their cost for the next vehicles moving forward. So that's the concept of the program. Any questions from a personnel or flexibility standpoint before we move into the vehicle or operating side?
So we would still be purchasing the vehicles
So we've got a couple different
as
options.
opposed to leasing them from you.
So
Is that correct?
in the model that we are proposing, that's our equity lease, so it is a leasing model.
Okay.
We do have a self-fund option, and we can leverage both options as we go into the future. With the equity lease model, it's essentially a bank finance. So we purchase the vehicle on your behalf, still leveraging that government incentives and strong buying power. But from a term standpoint, we've got 12, 36, 60-month terms in this analysis. But when we sell the vehicle, you get the equity.
Okay.
There's no over mileage, no wear and tear penalties, no early termination. It's all based around that equity when we go to sell that vehicle.
Okay.
Do we keep 100% of the equity, or is there a portion that you guys keep?
$400, $400 on the Enterprise, $395 for whatever reason on your existing fleet. So from a logistics perspective, we would deliver Jackie's truck to him, ready to go, get the aftermarket equipment if you would like, deliver that vehicle to him, ready to go, pick up the aged vehicle, sell it on your behalf. So we want to help you with the existing city fleet today, as well as the Enterprise vehicles moving forward.
And the lease will be based off of whatever the difference is after you sell the vehicle that you take?
We can either roll that equity into that next vehicle, or we can write you a check for the equity from the sale proceeds.
Okay.
From an acquisition perspective, got a few different ways that we can purchase these vehicles. We do have the largest dealership network in the country that we can pull stock vehicles from these dealers. We have a massive used inventory, as you can imagine, with our rental fleet and our fleet management vehicles coming off of lease. But about 95% of our vehicles in the government space are ordered direct from the manufacturer. So we'll sit down, spec out that vehicle exactly as you need it. We've got every manufacturer out there, of course, Ford, Ram, Chevy, Tesla, Rivian, whoever it be, and we will order these vehicles. Then they'll get delivered to the local aftermarket vendors. You don't start paying for the vehicle until after it's delivered. That's one of the benefits, especially from a supply chain standpoint these days. It's taking a little bit of time to get upfitted. We have a team that's managing all that. We're trying to reduce that time, but we'll handle that process, get that vehicle delivered, ready to go. From a resale perspective, the same team that sells all of our rental cars also sells our fleet management vehicles. On average, we're coming in about 10 to 15% above the commercial value index, which is auction value. But more importantly than that, we're selling them at the right time. As Rhonda mentioned, the resale market's very strong right now. 3 years, 5 years down the road, who knows where we're at. But we're analyzing that piece of it. But typically we're getting out of these vehicles, in this case, average of about 3 years. So instead of paying cash, running them until they're dead, we're getting out of these vehicles at the right time at the lowest cost per mile.
What's the average amount of time that it takes once you guys are ready to sell a vehicle? I mean, does you sell one, does it take 30 days on average, or does it take a lot longer than that or shorter than that?
So last I checked, the last information I had was about 22 days is about the time to sell it. That's one of the components that our team is graded upon, how much they sell for and how quickly. We don't want these vehicles sitting around. So we do try to sell them as fast as possible.
Do we know, Mr. Massey, I think you gave me a rough figure, and I don't know if I would hold you to this, but do you know roughly percentage-wise what the government purchases at below John Q. Public pricing?
Yeah, every vehicle is going to look different. So we're typically a few $100s under the state bid, state contract pricing. One of the key differences with our program is we're not held to just the state contract vehicles. For example, we might bring in an F-150 crew cab 4x4 XLT or an LT model, whereas on the state contract it might be an XL or a base level model. And the reasoning behind that is we're not running them till they're dead. We're selling them to the wholesale and franchise buyers that purchase our vehicles much sooner. So we've got a lot of flexibility there. But to answer your question, it's vehicle dependent, and every year it's going to change. So incentives have gone down in recent years, resale has gone up, and that's one of the things that myself and my team analyzes on a regular basis in guiding our
5%,
clients.
15%, 20%? Like, I realize I
We've
can't,
got some trucks back in 2020 era, we were $10,000, $11,000 under invoice. Traverse that we're looking at on some of these are $4,300 under invoice. So it varies very widely, but you buy them extremely well.
the reason I ask is, this goes against, everything that I've been taught.
Yeah.
Of the worst thing you can do is buy a brand new vehicle. It decreases in value so much immediately.
Sure.
And Lending Tree says that your vehicle drops in value 20% in the first year. So if we're buying 10% under and we drive it for a year and we've lost, okay, we're already saving ourselves that 10%. And then you're telling us that we can typically sell it. I thought I saw a statistic in your notes here that said ability to sell vehicles at an average of 112% above commercial value index. Okay, well, we bought 10 down, so that's great. And then you're selling it for 12 above. So we're coming out maybe about a wash if that were on a 1 year basis.
Sure.
Well, you're talking about an average of 3 years, so it's more than a 20% drop in value. So it's not a money-making program, in my opinion, based on that math.
Yeah.
But it's definitely saving us time, staff time, headaches of vehicles being in the shop, things like that. I'm just not so sure that this would be, you're talking about us getting to, keep that, the difference between.
The equity.
And that's great, and I do agree with that, but it's not, in my opinion, I don't really view this as a money maker
Right.
or revenue generator. It's just maybe reducing staff time, headache, and maybe maintenance costs, things like that.
No, I love that and absolutely agree with that. We're not here to profit or make money for the city in every scenario. Some
It
scenarios.
doesn't make the bills go away.
Correct.
It just turns it over to professionals, and I like what you said,
Yes.
Rhonda, is let's let the professionals handle it. We don't have somebody on staff to do this.
Yeah.
So I do agree that it's important to hand those types of things over to professionals that can do them and do them well. Like I said, I'm just not sure. I'm hearing
Sure.
we're going to make money, and maybe I'm misinterpreting that.
Well, and it
I'm not.
gives
I don't
the-
want to speak for everybody else, but I just want to make sure and be clear that this isn't a money revenue generator
No.
for us.
And I think it also gives the reassurance that, especially those people that are driving the 10, 15-year-old vehicles, that they're going to go out there in the morning, their truck's going to start. Not have to worry about, if you're driving a vehicle that's only a few years old, there's a
Right.
lot bigger percentage that, better percentage that it's going to start versus one that's 15, 20 years old.
Absolutely. Safety, morale, image, all those different components come in. Now, where we, from a financial perspective, what we've done in the analysis is try to show what you have done historically from a budget perspective, both with your capital, your operating, and your equipment budget combined, and then looking forward over the next 10 years with enterprise, is there a cost, is there a savings opportunity? So from a financial perspective, there is a savings opportunity in our analysis versus what we've done historically. And what our goal is not to profit, but to do what's best at every step of the way from a total cost of ownership standpoint and a cent per mile standpoint, right? And we've got all the flexibilities in the world, whether it's the self-fund, whether it's the equity, whether it's getting out after 12 or 24 months or extending out to 60, 72, whatever it be, right? So that's why I share some of that flexibility in there. But what we are really looking for is we want to partner with the city to do all those things that you just mentioned from the team standpoint, along with the financial impact of doing what's best from a savings perspective.
Well, and I think we say cost savings, there's still going to be an expense, obviously, but the cost savings, I think, will be greater at a time like this when the market is what it is.
Yes.
As soon as the market changes, the cost savings will not be as much, or at least not as noticed But, you know, like Rhonda said, let's take advantage of the market the way it is right now.
Yeah,
Once
especially.
you get the whole fleet under wraps too, that when you get into that 36-month cycle, the way that these age and the cost drops on them, that's what he's talking about. That's where it makes sense once all the vehicles are within that 36 month, because you don't have that much of a drop off from the 1 year to 3 year mark. And so that's where you can make up that difference in equity, because as much as they use it, depending on the department, some of them use more miles than others, but for the most part, from year 1 to 3, you don't see a huge drop off in vehicle pricing. And so that's where the equity part's gonna come back in. The first couple of years is gonna be tough though, because we have such,
Yeah, so.
such
Takes a while to
dilapidated
replace
vehicles, yeah,
27
so
vehicles.
doing it right now is the right time with prices being up, because for a really crappy truck, we can get it probably more than we would normally,
Yeah, if it starts and runs and God forbid has AC,
Yeah.
you're gonna get well
So-
more than.
That's the only reason I think it makes sense to try and start doing it now. I mean,
And
I
you
like
can-
the idea of keeping it under wraps, because, like you said, everything else kind of comes into play. And then once you get into that cycle, the equity is there once you hit that 36-month cycle, so.
I also think the more and more we grow, the more citizens, the more staff, et cetera, we're serving more community, our fleet is only gonna grow. And so, to manage that size of a fleet is difficult for our current existing staff to do. And so if you can outsource that, again, I'm all for outsourcing to professionals that do it for a living, when you don't have the means to do it in-house.
I would add a couple of comments here. Of all the things that we're doing in the next 10 years in the city of Spring Hill, all the growth and all the all the many things that you're going to face and a council after you is going to face, it takes this one off the table. Where we're not trying to manage equipment and vehicles over here to the side and hoping that we hold it together when we know the priority is going to go to more interesting things, no offense, Ken, but more interesting things that people don't really want to talk about, F-150 pickup trucks, when you can build a street or have a new development or have more commercial. And so this takes that off of the table where we are in a program. This is going to be maintained by professionals year after year after year, and you'll make the decisions you need to make, but it will be managed forward, not an afterthought to other things. And I can imagine that even when we build a 2024 budget, we'll have to figure out where the priorities are, and vehicles tend to get to be at the bottom. I also did not take anything Enterprise told me at face value. That's what you pay me to do. I did go through all of the numbers and pulled our own numbers and compared and found the numbers they gave us. I can't talk about, sell value because I just don't have any data on that. But I found their estimates to be a little bit conservative, maybe 10% conservative to what I would have done if I did the same analysis from scratch. And so I don't think we're being given a lot of smoke here. I feel like it's good information. And I think you guys have a great grasp of it to say, are we going to make money on this? No, we're going to reduce our costs. We're going to take advantage of equity and reduce the costs that we know we're facing. We're going to be replacing these vehicles one way or the other. This lets us not spend all of our cash to do that. It puts it on another program.
Well, and how many times over the course of the last year have we had to come up here and purchase, talk about purchasing a vehicle because we had one breakdown or had one wreck, or it's
Right.
happened at least 2 or 3 times that I can think of.
Or
That wasn't in the budget.
You
they
did
had to stop
4.
because
Yeah.
they had
Yeah.
nothing worked. Is this 300,000 in 10 years? Is that based off the analysis you did that in cost savings?
Correct. So from the orange line that you're seeing on there, the average line, that's trying to show your historical budget, and then the 308,000 is the total savings over the 10-year span, from a budget
Yeah,
standpoint.
just budget standpoint.
Yeah.
Another piece here we haven't talked about is, we don't have a system managing our fleet. We manage where the titles are, we manage the list that's on insurance, we do not have a system in place managing our fleet, and Enterprise would provide that as well. If we weren't doing a program like this, we're gonna have to get to that kind of a program because we just are doing it as the best we can, and everyone does a good job, but we do not have a system in place to manage the fleet.
Did you say you also manage insurance through there?
We do have a physical damage program through Lockton, which we can go that route, or you can use your existing policy. Typically upon renewals, we'll bring our pricing and tell you the benefits and all of that. And we can most certainly show you that.
And you guys are the ones offering the leasing, it's not through a third-party bank?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep, we act as the bank. A couple other areas that kind of leads into is the maintenance and the fuel. We do have a couple different options for maintenance. As I mentioned before, you can keep Enterprise out of it completely. It's optional, of course. Do what you've always done. The two programs that we have a maintenance management program that per Sourcewell, it is $6 per month per vehicle that all maintenance is passed through to the city. This program can be applied to every single one of those vehicles that you've seen tonight, as well as the emergency response vehicles. The way the program works is we go into the local dealership, local Firestone, Mom and Pa, and say, hey, I'm on the Enterprise program. They work with our corporate office. We make sure it's the right maintenance, right interval. We have negotiated pricing. We pay the bill wherever they go. Your team gets one monthly consolidated bill. So you're getting the right maintenance, right price. But in addition to that, we get that information. So in the analysis, we are conservative. We are using estimates. But into the future, as our client strategy manager is coming out on a quarterly basis, we're now using your hard data from a maintenance perspective and helping you to get out of the vehicle at the right time. As the new Enterprise vehicles would arrive, we have a fixed full maintenance program that will fix your costs for that specific vehicle, that build, that model, for the duration of the term and that vehicle's mileage pattern. Chad, as you mentioned, police are going to put on substantially higher mileage than Jackie's pickup truck, right? So it's specialized around that specific vehicle, but from a budgeting standpoint, we'll fix our cost and fix it for the duration of the term, inflation proof, all those things. So that's optional, of course, but we do have those two programs. From a maintenance perspective, gives our team a lot of data to help make recommendations. From a fuel perspective, you guys have bulk fuel today, so we're not going to get too in the weeds here. If you ever wanted to use our fuel program, we have WEX fuel cards. The cards are free, no monthly cost, 5 cent per gallon discount. That data is integrated through the dashboard that we just mentioned, and now we have your fuel, we have your maintenance, we know you buy for, sell for, and it all starts to come together. Completely optional. Last piece is our Geotab telematics. Telematics devices are becoming more and more popular through Sourcewell. Devices are free, harnesses are free. It is $19 per month per vehicle. So all of these different pieces are a la carte, if you will, and can certainly grow over the years, but we do have every piece available and optional for you.
And the analysis included none of those services or any of them?
The maintenance costs are we have maintenance estimates and fuel estimates in there. Does not include those. The cards are free, as I mentioned. Does not include the Geotab telematics. Your maintenance costs are going to be decreased to with or without us. From going to a 13.5-year cycle to a 3-year cycle, your maintenance costs will go down. But from that perspective, those programs.
As far as leases go, you just use market rate at the time of that acquisition, or is it fixed for like a year? How do you figure out the pricing for the leases as the vehicles come in?
So through Sourcewell, everything's mapped out. So we do have a management fee that is a 1/10 of a percentage point of the delivered cost of the vehicle. So let's take a $30,000 vehicle, delivered cost, it's $30 per month for the duration of the term. And then our interest component is the 3-year treasury bill plus 350 basis points. That being said, we're funding to a balance, not to a funding to a $0 balance in most cases. So every fee, every transaction is all mapped out in that Sourcewell cooperative. So it's all fixed and pretty simple for us.
And so all of them are fixed to the 36 month?
No. From a term standpoint,
Yeah, for the
it's
term.
dependent on the vehicle. So
So some of them may have longer life cycles, is that what you mean?
absolutely. So in this analysis, that's in your synopsis, there's 24 months, 36 months, 60 months, is depending on that vehicle class and the mileage patterns. And we consistent, and that's when we look at these analysis, I always recommend that we go in at a high level philosophy type model because we want to change and adapt over the years, right? In 3 years from now, it's going to look completely different. At some point there's electric, hybrids, whatever it be, right? Everything's changing very rapidly. So we're customizing the term, the mileage around that specific unit.
And then if we're in a market like now where a 2-year vehicle could be priced really high, do you start to sell those off and get new ones because of the pricing difference, or does it always have to go to whatever you fixed the cost to originally?
No, great point. So let's just take a 36-month term, and we're in a very strong resale market like we are today. we have a lot of our clients that are getting out at 12 months because the resale market's so high. 3 years, 4 years down the road, we go into recession, we can extend that 36 months to
So we can
40
go
years,
longer if
60
we don't have to
go
get rid of it. That
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And that's, I often get the question, how do we get out of this program if something were to go south? We can sell the vehicle, we can extend it out to zero, or you can pay off that remaining balance. So tons of flexibility built in to the model.
On maintenance and fuel, I wanted to tell you that in my analysis, and I think it's important for the public to know, we are not looking at changing any fueling process that we use now. We use local vendor primarily, and at this time, we are not making any decision about changing our fuel. There's no need. I did not, I reduced our fuel cost over time slightly because we will have newer, more fuel efficient vehicles and things like that. But I did not say, oh, well, we'll get on this program, we'll save. I didn't do that. Because that is not the decision we're making at this time. The same with maintenance. We will have newer vehicles that require less maintenance and they will be better maintained over time. And so I considered that in the cost as we went forward, but I did not say, oh, we'll jump on this program. I didn't do that. I went with how we're spending today and what it'll look like when our fleet is newer and more efficient.
Thank you.
From an analysis standpoint, and I don't know if we have that on, if we can pull the synopsis up.
It's in the agenda.
No worries. You have this in
got it
your
in front
packet. So just a few key pieces, and we've kind of already mentioned it. 11 years is the average age of the fleet as a whole, 8,200 miles on average. So again, you're going to have some police vehicles that are 15, 20,000 miles. And you're going to have some public works that are 4,000, 5,000 miles, depending on that unit. You have 14 vehicles over 10 years of age. In that fleet profile section, the first page there, there's some peaks, some valleys. Haven't acquired too many vehicles over the last few years, given the state of the industry. So a lot of talking points in that model. And then from an analysis standpoint, as I mentioned, the assumptions up top are what we put into the model. They get filtered into the analysis. The average line is trying to show from a historical budget perspective what your capital, equipment, maintenance, and fuel, and then your total fleet budget there. Then from 20, you can see year 23 on down. Those are the enterprise years. And then the net cash column is showing the current budget today versus that given year and showing if it's a savings or a cost. So over the 10-year span, there is a $308,000 estimated savings opportunity. Any additional questions? I know there's a lot of numbers on there, and we can certainly work through any of those a little more in depth if you would like.
I know I read it in here somewhere, but what's your full flip on all of the fleet? What was the plan for that with this analysis?
Say that one more
3
time.
years or 5 years?
Yeah, is it gonna be tiered? How many years?
It's over a 5-year
Five.
plan.
5 year, okay. I know I saw it somewhere now, I can't find it.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. So like on the 5-year plan, we're doing more than half in the first year in the analysis, and then it drops to between 2 and 4 for the following years after that. And some of those, I saw the criteria you had was basically 8, 6, 4. And then the younger ones get stretched out farther. But if we're going to do more than half of it the first year, would there be benefit for us trying to squeeze all of them into the first 2 to 3 years? Or
Yeah, absolutely. And many of our entities are doing that. If we just look, there's a few vehicles, the Fusion, the Renegade, the Impala, which I don't know if you have this fleet data, but there's within 5 or 6 vehicles, there's more equity than the 10 or 15 up top. So there's absolutely benefits. Some of the brand new police vehicles, we may wait a few years on those given the amount of equipment that's going on those units. And that's all been in conversation, and we're working through that. It's depending on the vehicle, the equipment, all of those different variables. But yes, absolutely, there are some newer vehicles in the fleet that we would recommend you replace sooner. We kept it pretty high level from a starting point standpoint and did more of a streamlined 5-year plan. But many of our entities, given the resale market, we were up 40, 4%, I believe, last year. We're up about 30% right now. So it's certainly a good time from a resale perspective.
If we got some good flip value out of a particular one, it would make sense to turn it in quicker.
Absolutely.
Is there any vehicles in our fleet, other than maybe the police, that would hit like major mileage points of like 100,000 miles within this 3-year mark? Like I said, I feel like the police maybe could probably do that, or maybe that might be a little quick for you guys. Okay, okay. So there's really not gonna be any major maintenance that's gonna be needed on any of these that are at a 3-year mark. Maybe if they're longer at 5-year, but again, those 5-year are probably not gonna hit the 100-year. They're
Still
gonna
be at 50,000.
fewer miles, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, very, very rarely do we see brakes and tire, non-police vehicle wise, very, very rarely do we see brakes and tires ever getting put on our vehicles
Okay.
in the government space.
I could see it really reducing the maintenance by having it not be a reactive thing like we've been doing with the vehicles getting older, and also for employee safety. I was looking at the anti-lock brakes that are in newer vehicles, electronic stability control, and the backup cameras. So
Absolutely.
that prevents a lot of accidents where something would have to be fixed by having those features.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize it was 07 that became,
I didn't realize that
I was
either.
like, I felt like we've
Hasn't
had those
We're,
so long.
we're getting old.
That old. Yeah.
Another item I would point out in your package is the references that they have listed in there. Our neighbors, we are not blazing a trail here. We're taking advantage of a trail other people have blazed. Between the Unified Government and Prairie Village, Osawatomie, Wellington, Derby, lots of cities are utilizing this program. I think he told me he's making 3 calls like this week or today. I don't remember what you said, but there are 3 references listed here, and I will tell you, I contacted all 3, and 1 returned my phone call. And she told me that she wishes she could say this is the best home run. She said, I believe in it. I believe the decision that we made. But a major storm went through and destroyed half of their new fleet, so the window's kind of broken out. And she said, we just don't have the data to tell you yet where it's going to go. But she said we felt we made a good decision when we made it. So
My question is actually for Lane, if you want to answer on it. Was this in place when you were with Emporia? And if you don't want to speak on it, that's fine.
No, I will.
I'm just curious, because if it was, I would know, I would think you would have some.
I've heard this
Dealings with
presentation a couple times now, so it was being implemented as I was leaving.
Okay.
So, but we'd reached out, we'd done the same due diligence, contacted other cities. Some of them were maybe a year into the process, but all of them that we'd contacted felt very comfortable with it. And it's kind of been a weird 2 to 3 years with prices of vehicles and availability of vehicles. So I think the ones that had been in it for several years had been doing very well, and the other ones who are just getting into it are going through the struggles of trying to get vehicles. But I think that's one of the selling points of this, is that the enterprise has the ability to help us get through the process. I believe, is it certain vehicles have a 1-day or 2-day window for ordering those vehicles, and if you miss that window, you're kind of out of luck for the year. So that's one thing I think that the enterprise brings to the table, is the expertise and helping us walk through that process.
Yeah, there's been a tremendous amount of challenges, as you can imagine, over the last 3 years. And I think out of all those entities that we have mentioned, the one thing that anyone that you speak to will tell you is that we're guided. If something happens, we're figuring out what to do next, right? I am in no way telling you there's not going to be challenges. Lane is speaking to General Motors. Last year, their light duty trucks and SUVs were open for about 1 day, 12 hours, and then 20 to 80% of their allocation got canceled. So it was extremely challenging. Now we're moving towards an allocation basis where we have to request allocation. So we do bring a ton of expertise. and we're going to guide the team as when the vehicles are opening, if we need to get allocation, and help guide you through those challenges. But we're not perfect either. I'll be very transparent about that. We've had many cancellations, many delays, many challenges, but we are positioning our clients in the best possible position that they can be in to get through these tough times, and guide them into the future.
Are we seeing that supply chain get better? I know overall we're seeing, for the most part, we're seeing supply chains get a lot better. Are we seeing that with the new vehicles as well?
We are. We're seeing many less cancellations, which is excellent. We're still seeing delays, but it's very nice to not order a vehicle, wait 12 months, have it canceled, and then have to restart the process. So we're seeing that going away. We still are seeing long lead times, short order banks, allocation structures, many different things per manufacturer, but it is getting much better.
I'll tell you some next steps, just so we could obviously talk about this for a long time. And this is the exact discussion we needed to have, was to get questions out there and get the wheels turning on the program. This will be on the agenda for the January 26th meeting to approve the program and authorize the mayor to sign the contracts for it. At that time, I believe we're going to, you'll know in advance if we're going to look at the maintenance part of this program or not. And then we'll have the contract for the fleet management program for, hopefully for your approval or for your decision that at that time. So this has also been through legal. I don't literally have Chuck's signature yet, because that's one of the last things we do. He's pointed out some good operational discussions for the team to have about it. But it's a master contract, so there aren't a lot of changes and things like that to it. So it's pretty ready to go. But we have a couple of weeks here where you can think of all these other questions or get input from your constituents, and we can get those answered before you make the decision on the 26th.
Is it an annual contract, or how do you?
So the master is kind of an indefinite contract.
Oh, okay, so it's
and
just a-
it's from a lease schedule perspective, it's per vehicle.
Okay.
Right.
And then I'd like to see, that's what I was gonna ask you, see if you can put a maintenance thing together to see if it's
Yes,
worth
definitely.
One more thing on supply. Are we running into any issues where let's say you sign a community up and then you can't get vehicles for them for a year?
Yeah, that's happened many times. We do have some inventory available right now. For any immediate need scenarios, as I mentioned, we really have 2 or 3 different ways that we can get vehicles. We're heading into the 2024 model year already, so we're kind of planning for that phase. So as I mentioned, we have some immediate need opportunities right now, and then we'll also be planning for, discussing, do we want to get more aggressive, do we want to get more streamlined, and kind of working through that process with the team. And it's going to be an organic process over the next year, 2 years, just given the state of the industry. But I'm confident that we can get vehicles in here sooner than a year for those immediate need scenarios.
I find this kind of a double-edged sword when we're talking about like being able to sell our older vehicles for a higher price than we ever would. This is the market to do that and get rid of them, because you're not going to get that kind of money in a different kind of market. But this is the same conversation we have with the housing market. Like, you sell high, you buy high. So same thing with when we're replacing those vehicles. They're probably not going to be more expensive than they are right now. I shouldn't say that. Could always go up. So this is also the highest time to buy, not just sell.
On used vehicles, on new vehicles, I think they're still they're not gonna go down, new vehicle prices.
Right, but my point is, the need, the higher price doesn't change our need. We still need to replace our vehicles. So
Yeah.
if we can have help with professionals to reduce that cost at his buying power,
Yeah.
I think this is a good time to capitalize on something like that. Because again, regardless of the price or where the market is, we need vehicles. Well, these are too old. They're failing, we have to replace them. So if we have a plan in place and we've got an opportunity to capitalize on buying at a lower price because of your buying power and your expertise, then that would be a great thing to take away from this.
Absolutely, and then 3-4 years down the road, you're going to have so much more flexibility at that point. If we're in a strong market, we can get out sooner. If we're in a bad market, we can extend out longer. So we'll be in a much better position to do what's best from a savings perspective at every time.
I feel pretty good about this. I mean, it's if we get our staff newer, more up-to-date equipment, which is something that we definitely need. If we can get a cost savings out of it too, that's definitely beneficial. You know, the kind of leery about it with, you know, how the used car market is going to fluctuate, and how the you know, we're taking a little bit of a gamble on that. So, so there's a little bit of risk there, but I feel pretty good about this.
I'd much rather sell 3 to 5 year vehicles than 15 to 20 year
Yeah,
vehicles.
I mean,
Even in a bad market.
it just
So,
it
in my
it puts
opinion,
our staff in a really bad position to have to be using a 10-plus-year-old vehicle for no matter what you're using it for.
And I'm sure the staff will be excited about it as well.
Absolutely.
I'll wrap it up if, unless you have other questions you'd like Ken to answer while he's here. And again, he's open. I'd be happy to share his number if you'd like to ask him more questions directly, or we'll be happy to field those and get answers back over the next couple of weeks so we can make the best decision for the city. And I really appreciate the exchange tonight. I think it's been really productive.
Thank you so much for your time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next, we'll go ahead and move on to the citizen participation period. And with that, we just have one person that's signed up their name. If you could just step up to the microphone and state your name and your address. And the person we have on the list is Carol George.
Hi, my name is Carol George. I live at 22120 Dunn Drive in Spring Hill. It's off 223rd Street. You have an agenda item to approve a settlement agreement between our subdivision and the city of Olathe. We've been involved in this for 2 years now. It's long. But I wanted to give you the background that there's people who live here that have been impacted by things that have not happened that we believe should have happened. That subdivision, Village of Victory, has been approved by this council 5 times since 2003. It has been approved by the Planning Commission 6 times. There was a bankruptcy and a switching of hands. And I have courted and appreciate the help of every single council meeting and planning meeting since it was first on the agenda. I've reviewed them all because it was tabled for 18 months. Part of the big reason is that it started anyway with the conversations because we're an abutting subdivision. We are a conservation district as a countryside subdivision. You have, I think, 4 of them in Spring Hill. And I've lived personally in 2 of them. I love them. Everybody has a couple of acres. Nobody has fences. They're usually private, so we have to pay for our driveways. We love the acreage and the privacy, but we get to know our neighbors and we still have, but we have room. And some grow chickens, some have flower farms, There's a little bit of a variety, but it's very down to earth. And when I bought my home in 2014, I was assured, knowing there was a subdivision, you could see phase 1 was going in. I was assured that there was a 20-foot tree preservation easement, and there would be an offset and a buffer between the subdivisions, theirs and ours. That didn't happen. And we started making phone calls early into 2021 when the bulldozers started taking out the hedgerows and the 20-foot tree preservation was not preserved. We went to the council, the planning committee, and said, hey, what happened to this? The fence laws, even your privacy fence laws, there's a buffer area. You have moderate screening that describes trees. None of that was enforced with the subdivision. That should have put in a buffer that you approved, and it was on 5 times. But you don't have to. And I think that's what we've heard and has felt burned the most, is that although it's been approved all those times, you don't really have to enforce it. And you haven't. But we did sign the settlement agreement. It's still ongoing with the other parties. We signed it. We're sure you're going to too, and you're going to be advised to. But I just wanted you to hear this story from the people who've been affected. And we all have, even the new people moving in. They didn't know any of this was going on. They can't put in fences because we still have lawsuits over some of them. Personally, I have 7 lots abutting my acreage. And 6 of them still belong to the developer. And I'm like, just put in some trees. It's in the ordinances of your own subdivision ordinances. Well, nobody's enforced it. You don't have to. You said you were going to, all the way back in 2003, 2005, 2007, 2015, and the last one of 2017. it was there. But that's the most disheartening part. Living here over 30 years, I was promised that buffer, and then those 6 subdivisions, those lots down on my lot. I'm faced in the corner, so my offset is just as much as theirs. They are in my backyard. I can tell what color they're painting those houses from my kitchen. They're close. I didn't buy that. I did not buy that. The screening, the 50% moderate screening that's required is not there. They haven't planted any trees in that buffer. And we asked them to back in 2020, and nobody's enforced it. We didn't have a code enforcement either, and they don't use those cars apparently to drive around and check. But anyway, that's just kind of the backstory of it. And to see them advertise those lots and homes for sale that are abutting mine for private tree lots, because it's on my last 1.5 acres, where we have the creek that manages the stormwater. Oh yeah, one of those years they wanted to condemn my lot for stormwater, but the city wouldn't let them do it, and I appreciate that. But that's the giving that the city has done for these subdivisions at our expense, and it has been expensive. So, but it's our land, and it's what we bought, and it's the lifestyle we want to preserve. And those subdivisions and countrysides were built to conserve the area between rural and suburbia. And I have suburbia in my backyard, and I have rural across the street. Except I just got a notice they're gonna build something over there too, but anyway, there's people behind it. It's been ugly. There's been assault charges. There's been restraining. There's been trespassing warnings. I mean, it has been awful. I hope it ends. I was hoping it would end, but I think we're getting ready to go into a different phase that's gonna be more expensive. But anyway, I'm sure you'll approve it and you'll sign it, and we're good with that.
Yeah.
We're kind of at the end. So and this was the only time I feel like that I could speak openly and publicly, because when you're under those kind of lawsuits, you kind of have to, and then we saw it on the public agenda, and I felt like it was my only chance I was ever going to ever talk to you about it openly, because it's on an open agenda item. But I appreciate all your help, and we march on. We're going to try to get it settled with others. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is the only person we have on the list. Is there anyone else that would like to step up and say anything at this time?
If you don't mind, I will.
Yeah, if you want to state your name, your address.
My name is Chad Johnson. I live at 22146 Dunn Drive. I came to support my neighbor, Carol. Obviously, this is in regards to the same situation. Just wanted to make a statement to you guys. In 2003, this body sat before the Phillips family, the Myers family, the Murphy family, and the Whitesell family, and they promised that that 20-foot tree preservation, that hedgerow would be protected to the maximum extent. I'm a normal person with a normal job and a normal family that have lived in Spring Hill since 2008, and we've spent tens of thousands of dollars to protect our properties, all the while you guys are still allowing them to be destroyed. It's a violation of your ordinances, and I have a list of ordinances that's a violation of, and the city's stance is that we know it's a violation, but we don't care, and you can't make us enforce it. And in the meantime, what the property that I bought has completely been destroyed. Its intrinsic value, the trees are cut down. My fence that has existed for 50 years, since before I lived there, has been removed. Constant arguments and problems with the neighbors to the north because they don't understand it. We don't understand it. And there was absolutely no leadership. I expected the city to step in and make a decision and help and be an ally in this issue and resolving this matter. And it's been quite the opposite. So I just want to express that I'm extremely disappointed. I've always been happy and loved living in Spring Hill, and it's completely changed my mind about this city. Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry to hear that. Anyone else? If not, we'll close citizen participation at this point and move on to consent agenda. And with that, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal council action. First item on the agenda we have is consider the approval of appropriation order number 2023-01-12. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor again.
Thank you. I'll be brief. This is a standard or routine approval of each meeting. This is an appropriation order for payroll and other payables totaling $1,088,581.04. There are no exceptions or unusual items in this appropriation.
Any questions or comments on that? Everything I saw was pretty straightforward. If anybody has any questions or wants some further answers on that. If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve appropriation order number 2023-1-12.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider acceptance of RFP for insurance broker selection, and Mrs. Jones, you have the floor.
Good evening, everybody. So yes, I am here to present for determining the firm that's going to provide the brokerage, administration, and consulting services for liability insurance for the city. And what we did, a little bit of the background you have there in the agenda review sheet, but a synopsis is an RFP was submitted and distributed to allow us to get some structured information about each of the options that were available for firms, for us to analyze and determine a few key aspects of what would be the best fit for the city. And each firm was required to have expertise, licenses, staffing resources that were going to be able to fully support and be a strategic partner for the city. Several key considerations were considered, but highlight a couple were just the company details, the available technology, and the strategic attributes that were going to be given to us. A committee reviewed all three of the submissions and ultimately landed on recommending the Elliott Group as the firm to select. Obviously, there are alternatives for you to consider. You can select the Riley Company as the firm to provide these services for us. You can select Connell Insurance as the firm to provide the services for us, or you can even deny what is being presented and direct us to go and research further. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
You said it was just 3 bids?
Yeah, we did just get 3. And whoever is selected tonight, the intent is for them to begin immediately, essentially going through and being able to provide any the costs and the packages offered for us for the coverage, pricing, deductions, limitations, all of those kind of key points, the minute details. And those are intended to be presented to you in March so that we can be active for April 1st.
And our current is Riley?
Right.
Correct.
I mean, I don't have any questions.
Yeah. I don't think I have any
I know
questions.
the Elliott Group is a big company down here, pretty well known.
Yes.
So,
They're also local.
yeah.
Yep, I was just gonna say.
They're at
Literally,
Paola,
office
they
in
have one
Spring
here.
Yep. I was just gonna ask, are they getting
So-
housed out of office here in Spring Hill?
Yes, they are. And as with any type of change that you make, there's always that acclimation period, and especially with a item as big as this, right now, whoever is selected, they're just gonna come in and jump in and get us going, because we're in a pretty short time frame before April. So I would say at least give them a year or two through that acclimation period and really kind of see how that partnership and everything is going. And there's no concerns that it won't go well.
I'm good with it.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments?
No.
All good.
If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve Elliott Group as the city's insurance broker.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to announcements and reports. For me, I have, I'm sure you guys have seen throughout town and along 169 highway, all the boring machines and digging going on everywhere. So we got fiber going in the ground all over the place throughout town, all along 169 highway. So we got Clearwave and Comcast. Comcast is barreling down 169 highway and made the turn right there at Quick Trip, and Clearwave's going throughout town. So it's nice to see some healthy competition for fiber here in Spring Hill instead of what we've dealt with for a lot of years. So that's exciting for me. Obviously, with that comes a few what I would call construction growing pains. Some crews have hit some water lines and messed up some people's yards and a few other issues. So we are aware of those. We've got some calls and emails on that. We're trying to handle those as quickly and efficiently as possible and get them to the right people. So if anyone out there is listening, if you're running into any of those issues, please contact the city and we'll put you in touch with the right people so we can get those resolved quickly. And I do want to thank Comcast and Clearwave for jumping on quickly to any issues they're running into. And then I know a lot of us up here would like to get an update on, since it's past January 9th, like to get an update on the burn house. So I don't know if Pat or if Lane, if either one of you guys want to get an update on that.
You want me to do it now or?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, today, met with contractors, they started today, they put up some additional fencing, and tomorrow equipment will be there and dumpsters, so, basically it'll start tomorrow, all the demo will start.
Awesome.
So, I have some pictures of, they put some, additional fencing up. So that's really about it.
Good. I think that's what we all wanted to hear.
And then, part of that fiber discussion is, that's at no cost to the city also.
Correct.
So, as some of you can remember the discussions with back, the city was gonna provide funds and all that a few years ago, so.
Yep, that's exciting. And then also wanna make it clear as well, it's not our crews that are hitting lines. It's not Public Works hit, so.
Did we get an internet staff?
But they are getting them fixed pretty quickly, so. And if there's any issues where they're not, just let us know. Mrs. Roth?
Very excited to see the streetlights, the streetlight, streetlight, start to be operational. I know a lot of people were kind of, as I go through that intersection, I see people trying to, do I stop? Do I not stop? What do I, So it's nice to see that will hopefully be up and going. It's my understanding they were gonna do a test period and or just flash
for a week
red
or two.
for
Yeah.
a while.
I think the full functionality of the light will be next Tuesday or
Okay.
Wednesday, so
Cool.
It's got the week.
very quickly.
Yeah. So that's exciting. And then I was also excited to see a lot of the framework going up on Moody's Hardware. I'm sure a lot of people are excited for that. But hopefully, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know if we are in the know on the projected completion of that, but
I haven't heard anything lately. I heard the
maybe
initial one, but I
maybe
haven't heard
summer projects for everybody that's here doing their own stuff. I don't know. I don't want to spread rumors, but that is exciting. But yeah, just excited that it all ties into the growth and the internet, and so we're growing and we're doing the best we can to stay up with it. So it's all exciting stuff. That's all I have.
Feel.
Really happy to get the burnt house issue resolved, and really happy to hear that we've got contractors on site working on that. That was kind of the last big step that needed to get completed. I had a couple of citizens from that neighborhood that contacted me this week. So hopefully that will be wrapped up here shortly, and really excited that that's done. So that's all I got.
Mr. Young?
I don't really have any things. Everybody have a good Martin Luther King Day on Monday and observe that. It's always a big holiday.
Mrs. North?
No report.
Mr. Massey?
Nothing new this evening.
Mr. Burton?
No, just one other thing I did forget is the contractor did talk to several of the neighbors.
Oh, good deal.
Good, especially the gentleman next door came out, and so.
Good. Madam Clerk?
No report, thank you.
Mrs. Dunn?
No report, thank you.
Mrs. Jones?
I have several things. No.
Sneaky.
Mr. Messer.
I had a couple of things. One was to tie into something you said, the light at the end of the tunnel. Clearwave intends to be done by the end of this month.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Another thing, tomorrow we're gonna do the pre-con for the Veterans Lake Memorial, so that'll be kicking off pretty quick. And we did get a lot of our pieces of equipment on Purple Wave, the old stuff, and it should be going out pretty quick. I think it'll be on the sale in the next couple of weeks, so that was all.
Are you gonna be doing autographs after
Yeah, did you see yourself on TV?
TV star?
Raking in all the money.
Sign my agenda after the meeting.
Something I did forget to mention, and it is something that we've talked as a staff about quite a few times over the last year, but just been brought to my attention over multiple occasions about the need for a stoplight at 191st and 169. A couple more people talked to me about it today as well, just saying that they're scared that somebody's going to get killed going across that, trying to cross the highway there. So anyways, I just want people to know out there, we have been in talks with the state for quite a while now, and we are trying to go through that process, but it is a process, and we know it needs a light, and we hope to have one in the near future.
Come on, Kita.
So, with that, if there's not anything else, I entertain a motion to move into executive session, and I believe we have two of them. Chief, do you have anything? Mr. Lowe, do you have anything? Forgot that whole end of the room over there.
Nothing separate from me, so.
Sorry, guys. Thank you. Thanks for being here, Chief. With that, I entertain a motion to move into executive session, and we have two of them. We need 5 minutes
5 minutes each.
for each, yeah.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 5 minutes to receive advice of counsel regarding litigation pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception of KSA 75-4319 Bravo 2 of the Kansas Open Meeting Act. The open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 8. Do you need time to get there?
Not really.
8:18 p.m. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Mr. Spencer Lowe, MVP Law, Mr. Lane Massey, City Administrator, and Ms. Mona Keisha Jones, Human Resource Director.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. See you shortly. Welcome, it's on. Welcome back, everyone. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened in open meeting at 8:18. No votes were taken or discussions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. Next, I entertain a motion to move into the second executive session for the same amount of time.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 5 minutes to receive advice of counsel regarding recent Supreme Court decision pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception of KSA 75-4319 Bravo 2 of Kansas Open Meeting Act. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 8:24. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Mr. Spencer Lowe, MVP Law, Mr. Lane Massey, City Administrator.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. We will see you shortly.
Yeah. I was getting ready to have like the chief with curfew or something. Come on, doesn't Sri have like a curfew? Shouldn't we all be at home?
All right, let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened into open meeting at 8:24. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion or disagreements? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.